ثم أخذت الذين كفروا فكيف كان نكير ألم تر أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به ثمرات مختلفا ألوانها ومن الجبال جدد بيض وحمر مختلف ألوانها وغرابيب سود ومن الناس والدواب والأنعام مختلف ألوانه كذلك إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور صدق الله العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah, Dr. Neek. In an era where inclusivity in education is more critical than ever, today's session will shine a spotlight on how we, as educators, policymakers, and society at large, can better support the unique learning needs of neurodiverse students. Prof. Ratna from the School of Education, IIUM, will guide us through an engaging exploration of this very important subject. Before we proceed, however, I would like to announce that Associate Professor Dr. Suhaila Hussain, who is the Dean of Co-Ed, sends her salams and regrets that she cannot be here due to a death in her family. So we send our deepest condolences to her and her family. But in her place, we are honored to have Dr. Azani to deliver the opening speech on Dr. Suhaila's behalf.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, Presiden International Islamic University Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, Rector International Islamic University Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris Ismail, who is sitting somewhere at the back, Deputy Director Academic and Internationalization. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Aslam Muhammad Hanif, Deputy Director Research, Innovation and Development, University Management Committee, professors, my dear colleagues, especially from School of Education, as well as from the International Islamic University Malaysia, brothers and sisters, last but not least, the celebrated, my teacher, my mentor, Professor Dr. Ratnawati. I'm standing here, I have the honor here is simply because Dr. Suhaila has had asked me to speak on her behalf. It is actually on behalf of the Kuliah to have this honor and a privilege to welcome all of you to this particular important and timely professorial lecture, which is entitled No Learner Left Behind, Our Role in Addressing the Educational Needs of Neurodiverse Students with Autism, Dyslexia, and ADHD. Before I begin, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee for the hard work to bring this particular occasion possible, especially to the chair, which is also the head of Department of Language and Literacy, Assistant Professor Dr. Hazika, the Program Manager, Assistant Professor Dr. Siti Fatima, and Assistant Program Manager Dr. Suraya Cik Harun, and also to the rest of the team. Thank you so much. Your dedication and effort have made this particular event possible, and we pray that the effort that you have shown will be taken as an ibadah in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For everyone's information, this is the 5th professorial lecture hosted by the School of Education, and for this particular year, this is the 2nd. We have had one given by Professor Dr. Daud Hidabi in the last few months, and Alhamdulillah, we are here again to have another round of professorial lecture by Professor Dr. Ratnawati. And today we have gathered here not only to celebrate the work of an outstanding scholar. I think outstanding scholar is the accurate definition to describe my dear Prof. Ratna, but also to reflect on the pressing educational needs of the neurodiverse students, especially those who have often been marginalized in traditional educational settings. Inshallah, the lecture that we are about to hear, we take it as a crucial step in broadening our understanding of how we, especially those coming from Kuliah of Educations who will become teachers soon, inshallah, as educators, can better support learners with these neurodiverse conditions. There are some anecdotes given by Dr. Suhaila. So when I'm saying this, Prof, you have to imagine me being Dr. Suhaila. Okay. Professor Ratna, I being Dr. Suhaila again, I would like to take this moment to express my deepest gratitude to you, both for your exceptional contribution to these institutions and for being an inspiring mentor to me and countless others, and others include myself. Prof. Ratna is one of the kindest person I've known. This is according to Dr. Suhaila. And I don't think I've seen her angry. But I think with me, Prof, you have got angry once, if I because I did not reply your WhatsApp message. Although she is very kind, she is kind, and we know very well of her tenacity. Prof. Ratna is capable of convincing the toughest research funders with her strong logical arguments without raising her voice. I can be the witness for this, and I know how dedicated the dedications of hers towards our research work. And I can still remember how she would meticulously go through every word of my article and make sure that I do the revisions accordingly. And she does this in all her thesis supervisions and editing work. And again, I can be the witness for this, especially when I saw her coming to the postgraduate office and students sitting in front of her, when she would, like, hours doing consultation with them. If it's me, I would just have run away in the first 30 minutes. But Prof. Ratna is still dedicated in this kind of sense. So it is it is with great pride that the Kuliah has the distinguished speaker, Prof. Ratna, today, whose expertise, patience, and tireless commitment to this field, which I believe have had an immeasurable impact on the Kuliah and the broader educational community. Prof. Ratna has been an exemplary model of scholarship, leadership, and mentorship, and I can personally attest to the profound influence she has had on me and on many of us here today. Her work has not only enriched the academic life of the Kuliah, but has also shaped the way we approach inclusive education, particularly for students who are often overlooked. I think I can just stop here, Prof. I have list of good words to say about you personally, but I think I can just reply to your WhatsApp message after this. Inshallah, I will see that personally. So without further ado, I would like to welcome everyone to join me to welcome Professor Ratna, who will take us through her profound insight on how we can ensure that no learner is left behind. Thank you so much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azani. Ladies and gentlemen, you will now be shown a multimedia presentation on the life of Professor Ratna. It is now my privilege to call upon Ms. Shakira to introduce Prof. Ratna to us.
Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, President of the International Islamic University Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, Rector of IIUM, respected University Management Committee, Assistant Professor Dr. Hazika Zulaika Aris, Chairperson of the Co-Ed Professorial Lecture, cum Head of the Language and Literacy Department Co-Ed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shakira Abdul Halim and I am a teacher at SMK Sultan Omar, Dungun, Terengganu. Today is a very special day for someone I truly love, adore, and respect. Today is about honoring someone who has made a profound impact on my life and the lives of many others. So, traveling for 6 hours is something I wouldn't hesitate to do. It is such a great honor to introduce our esteemed speaker, who was also my lecturer and supervisor. She is none other than Professor Dr. Ratnawati binti Muhammad Asraf. Professor Ratnawati graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Biology in 1977 and a Master of Science degree in Secondary Education in 1979 from Northern Illinois University. In 1995, she obtained her PhD from Florida State University, graduating summa cum laude with a CGPA of 3.98 in multilingual and multicultural education, and inducted into the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society in recognition of academic excellence for being in the top 5% of the graduating year. Upon graduation, she served for 3 years as a secondary school teacher in the Maktab Rendah Mara MRSM school system before joining the IIUM in 1988, where she was one of the pioneer members of the Center of Education. In 2013, she was appointed as the Dean of the Center for Postgraduate Studies, where her responsibility was to contribute to the development of university policy affecting postgraduate students. While from 2015 to 2021, she served as the Director of the Research Management Center, RMC, where she was given the responsibility of fostering the research and publication culture among IIUM academics and raising the research performance of the university. Professor Ratnawati is actively involved in teaching, research, and supervision, and has supervised and graduated more than 20 PhD students and 8 master's students, including me. She has also secured more than 15 national and international research grants as principal investigator and received 15 research and teaching awards. Professor Ratnawati is also actively involved in consultancy as the lead consultant in more than 12 projects commissioned by the Malaysian Science and Technology Information Center, and also for the report R&D and Innovation in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a project awarded by the King Abdul Aziz City for Science and Technology, Saudi Arabia. Professor Ratnawati has published more than 60 research articles in refereed and index journals and several books and book chapters in the areas of teacher education, curriculum and instruction, literacy, and teaching and learning English as a second language. In the 39 years in which she has been an educator, Professor Ratnawati has always believed in the importance of fostering a positive self-concept, confidence, academic resilience among learners, and inspiring them to develop a deep curiosity and passion for learning, where they are not just passive recipients of information, but active and sincere seekers of knowledge. So this is Prof. Ratna, the lecturer that my friends and I know and respect. Prof. Ratna is a serious scholar with a serious sense of purpose, but also with a very good sense of humor that we, her student, were surprised to find out at first. She captivates us with her intellect, wisdom, passion, patience, dedication, kindness, elegance, and effortless style. She is a true murabi, a motherly figure who guides us with care, pushing us to reach our full potential while at the same time reminding us to always be mindful of our responsibilities. As a supervisor, she is exemplary and always gives us the time we need for consultation and guidance. Prof. Ratna is a true leader, inspiring us to become better versions of ourselves and driving us to strive for excellence in everything we do, not just in our degree, but in life too. Prof. Ratna, thank you for everything that you have done for us. You are indeed a legend in your own right. Your legacy is not just in the knowledge that you have imparted, but in the hearts that you have touched and the life you have transformed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you always for what you have done for the Ummah. With that, I end my speech with thank you and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much, Ms. Shakira, for the heartwarming sharing. Without further ado, I now invite Professor Ratna to take the mic and share her expertise with us.
Actually, I'm not sure whether I can go on with this professorial lecture because what our sister Shakira had said actually really went to my heart. Thank you very much, Sister Shakira, for your kind words. I really hope that I'm deserving of those sentiments that you have expressed. So thank you so much. It really feels good to have really feels good when a student appreciates the teacher for what the teacher might have done. Although I'm not sure if I've done a lot, but I thank you so much for the kind words. Okay, I think I'm now okay about giving the talk. I will control my emotions right now. Okay. Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, President of the International Islamic University Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, the Rector of the IIUM, respected members of the University Management Committee, Associate Professor Dr. Suhaila Hussein, Dean of the Kuliah of Education, although she's not able to be here because of because of a death in the family. Dr. Hazika Zulaka Aris, Chairperson of the Co-Ed Inaugural Professorial Lecture and Head of the Literacy Department. Thank you so much, Dr. Hazika. We know we've worked so hard. You and your team would like to express my appreciation to Dr. Hazika and all the team members who have worked so hard. And I think this is the result. Thank you so much for your hard work. Distinguished guests, my beloved family members, especially my significant other, Professor Wan Muhammad Nur Wan Daud, from CASES. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for all this would not have been possible without the support of my significant other and my other family members, and of course, my other colleagues as well. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for being here today. I'm deeply honored to stand before you to discuss a very important but often overlooked subject, and that is the education of neurodiverse learners with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, and the challenges they face in learning in mainstream classrooms. I truly appreciate the time and the presence here, your presence here this morning, and your willingness to engage in this conversation, as this is the first step in making a difference in the lives of these learners and their families. My interest in students with dyslexia, autism, and ADHD began when I came to know about the difficulties in reading faced by a young child with dyslexia, and the anxiety, the stress, and the feeling of helplessness that came with not being able to read. I then came to see the effect of autism on another young child and how it made her feel afraid of even her family members who were not a part of a nuclear family, and how she would shy away from socializing with others. As a teacher, as an educator, I've always felt that these children can be helped and should be supported to attain their full potential. And this is where I am today. Ladies and gentlemen, the thrust of my lecture is to discuss our role in addressing the educational needs of neurodiverse students with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD so that no learner is left behind. This lecture focuses on the education of neurodiverse students with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, and the unique challenges they face in the mainstream classrooms. In this lecture, I will share the day-to-day realities faced by these learners, from the academic struggles to the emotional toll of being misunderstood. By examining real-life examples, research findings, and the Islamic perspective on education, we will address how parents, teachers, and society can play their role in providing these students with the opportunities and support they need. I will also underscore the importance of understanding and accommodating their needs so that we may unlock their potential and help them to flourish, not only academically, but in all areas of life. But first, allow me to begin my talk with a story, a true story of a young boy named Ahmad. Ahmad was in the first grade, or standard 1, when I first noticed that he had difficulty in reading. Ahmad had not yet learned to read. He could not recognize words by sight, and he also had problems recognizing many letters of the alphabet. In contrast, Ahmad's classmates seemed as if they were light years ahead of him in reading. They could read words, letters, and sentences, and they could even spell, or at least they had started to learn how to spell. Ahmad, however, was way behind. He often found it difficult to follow what the teacher was teaching. This was in stark contrast to his friends, who did not seem to have any problems following their teacher. One day, his mother went to see his teacher to explain that Ahmad was having some trouble with reading and math and would take a little bit of time to catch up. She wanted to inform the teacher of Ahmad's condition, hoping that his teacher would understand. This was also to enable her to buy some time to help her son to catch up. However, nothing could have prepared her for the response from the teacher, who said, "Puan, kalau anak orang lain boleh buat, kenapa anak Puan tak boleh buat?" Which, when translated, means, "Madam, if other people's kids can do it, why can't yours?" This left the mother totally stunned. She was speechless that these words had come from a teacher. Not long afterwards, Ahmad's parents found out that he had dyslexia. In fact, not only did he have dyslexia, but he also had ADHD and a difficulty in understanding mathematics, known as dyscalculia. Ahmad's parents then decided to enroll him in another school where they felt that the teachers there would understand his situation better and would be able to help him. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Ahmad's story is one of many in which neurodiverse learners, such as those with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, experience difficulties in mainstream classrooms, where their neurological makeup causes them to, causes them to process information and learn differently. This often leads to struggles in keeping pace with their peers. Because of this, they are often wrongly labeled as being slow, lazy, or stupid, labels given due to a lack of knowledge and understanding of their conditions. It is also due to the assumptions made about these learners that their inability to keep up is because of their attitude towards class or learning. People tend to make these assumptions because there is nothing, and if you take a look at the picture, there's nothing just by looking at their faces that would indicate that they have any kind of condition that would make learning difficult for them, at least initially. Therefore, to understand and appreciate the challenges that these learners have in learning, it is important to go into the characteristics of those with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD. I hope that by knowing a little bit more about their conditions, we will be able to understand and appreciate better the challenges they face in learning and why they might act the way they do, or why they may not understand what we have taught them as easily as their friends would. Let me begin by discussing very briefly what neurodiversity is and what neurodivergent learners are, possibly two new vocabulary that many of us may have just heard. I had not heard about this until perhaps maybe a decade ago. So neurodiversity is in fact a term often attributed to Julie Singer, an Australian sociologist. It refers to the idea that every human brain is wired differently, that no two brains are alike, as this picture is trying to depict. Further, the concept of neurodiversity recognizes that variations in brain function, such as those seen in autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other cognitive variations, are natural and very valuable forms of human diversity. Rather than viewing these differences as deficits, neurodiversity emphasizes that individuals with these differences have unique strengths and perspectives which should be appreciated. Neurodivergent learners, then, are learners whose brains function differently and process information differently from what is considered as a standard or typical that of the typical learners. Learners with autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, among others, are often referred to as neurodivergent learners, in which their brains develop differently and that they are differently wired from that of the neurotypical learners whose brain functions, behaviors, and processing are considered typical, who has met all or almost all the standard developmental and behavioral milestones, and who acquire skills such as speaking, reading, and writing at about the prescribed times during and at the expected milestones during childhood. Ladies and gentlemen, because neurodivergence includes a vast array of neurodevelopmental conditions, as you can see in this graph, you're not meant to read it. The point that I'm trying to make is there's so many conditions under neurodiversity that because of this, my focus will be on learners with dyslexia, autism, and ADHD, because this would make it easier for me to manage the presentation, and so that, because, and these conditions also share several things in common, although there are also differences. And they also often occur together. So a dyslexic child may also have ADHD. An autistic child may also have ADHD. An autistic child may also have dyslexia. So these are things that can occur together. And this is why, for example, in certain countries like in Malaysia, dyslexia, autism, and ADHD are known or as called as learning disabilities. Okay, in addition, I would also like to introduce the term specific learning disabilities, as you will find them widely used in the literature to refer mainly to dyslexia and dyscalculia, among others. Autism and ADHD are not really learning difficulties or disabilities, but learning disabilities can co-occur at higher rates in autistic and ADHD individuals compared to those without these two conditions. In Malaysia and in some other countries, autism and ADHD are often referred to as learning disabilities, as their conditions often affect learning. I will also be using this term later in my lecture to report some of the research that has been conducted in this area. At this point, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that specific learning disabilities does not mean that a child is disabled when it comes to learning. The name itself, learning disabilities, would make us think that they are not able to learn but that's a term that was used. And I was actually very, I could understand why it got to being used, because learning disabilities started to be used for legal purposes. And this was to include these individuals under the Persons with Disabilities Act and other similar acts in various countries, which allows them the rights and protection under these acts. We know about students and people with disabilities. We can see that with our eyes. But when it comes to learning disabilities or learning difficulties, they came to be known as learning disabilities, so that these groups of students can be brought under the Persons with Disabilities Act, which affords them this kind of protection. The medical term for this is learning disorder. So that, people use terms interchangeably. Learning disorder to refer to the conditions that these learners diverge from what is considered as being typical of learners who have attained the expected milestones. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now that I have totally bewildered you, with the introduction of this term, let me bewilder you some more by going into some of the manifestations of autism, dyslexia, and ADHD. But seriously, knowing the manifestations of these conditions is necessary for us to understand and appreciate the challenges that these students have in learning in mainstream classrooms. So let us, first of all, take a look at dyslexia. I think many of us must have heard about dyslexia, but today I would like to go into its characteristics, what they are, and the impact on the learner in terms of their feelings about themselves. Dyslexia is, in fact, a specific learning disability that's neurobiological in origin. It has to do with our brains. There's something about the brain and how our brain is wired that leads a person to have dyslexia. So it's a neurological condition. And dyslexia accounts for 80% of all specific learning disability cases. It causes difficulties with regard to reading, such as decoding words, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. Dyslexic children read at a slower pace than their peers, but they can learn. So dyslexia also causes the brain to have trouble processing words and sounds, making it difficult for a child to read, write, and spell, and impacts the ability of a child to read at a normal pace. I would like to share with you the experience of one dyslexic adult who had participated in my study, who discovered her dyslexia when she was 55 years old, and who had a successful career as a bank auditor after graduating with an accountancy degree in the United States. But in the study, she actually wrote about how she overcame her conditions. But that is, to go into great depth. And this is what Amy Lee, not her real name, shared with me about her dyslexia. Okay, what Emily said was that my reading and writing disability haunted me throughout my years in school and college. I was a slow learner and often failed my spelling and comprehension tests. My struggles had actually started much earlier when I was in kindergarten. It was always a challenge for me when it came to learning new words and writing the letters of the alphabet. I remember that when I was about 7 years old, my mother struggled to teach me how to spell. She thought that I was not focused and that I was uninterested in learning. When I was in standard 2, I did not understand why it was so hard for me to spell paper when I was asked to do so by my teacher. As a result, I had to stand throughout the lesson as punishment. I still remember that day, my first punishment in school. One can never completely forget the feeling of shame and embarrassment from such an event. When Amy Lee shared with me her experience and her sentiments regarding her life as a dyslexic, it also brought something to my mind. I thought about when I was much younger, when I was in primary school, when I saw my friends or some of them at some point having to stand and having to put their hands in their ears. I don't know whether any of you had to do that because all of you look very young to me, but this is probably an old way of telling students something that we had to do this, put our hands on our ears, and worse still, sometimes you had to go up and down in that position. So, it got me thinking, could my friends have had dyslexia at that time and not know? They couldn't read. They found it hard to read. Could they have had dyslexia? So that was something that, that after you started knowing a little bit about dyslexia, you start to feel that perhaps some of these things that we've been observing, some of these things that we see in learners, for example, as not being able to do something, this could have been caused by something such as dyslexia. And as we can see from the narration of her experience as a dyslexic, dyslexia can have significant effects on a child's emotions and self-worth. Another neurological condition, the sister of dyslexia, and this is dyscalculia. So my colleagues here, like Dr. Gairu from the Kuliah of Economics. Of course, numbers are a very important thing in the Kuliah of Economics, and also Prof. Rosita. So another condition, also a neurological condition called dyscalculia, the sister of dyslexia, is sometimes called math dyslexia, and where it affects the ability to acquire mathematical skills. Dyscalculic learners have difficulty understanding simple number concepts and lack an intuitive grasp of numbers. Children with dyscalculia, as you can see, this boy is trying to do his arithmetic, counting, and so on. Children with dyscalculia often have difficulty in understanding math concepts, just like children with dyslexia. They often learn at a slower pace than their learners. Sometimes they need to be taught a concept several times before they can understand it. And when they are thought to have understood it, they would often forget this once a new concept is taught to them. This can frustrate many teachers and even parents when they see that the child keeps on not getting it. It is difficult for them sometimes to understand why the children cannot understand, why it takes them so long to understand when other students or other children can. Hence, the conclusion that they make about these children is that they are slow or even lazy for not exerting enough effort to learn. These negative perceptions are not helped by the fact that these conditions are invisible. You really cannot tell by just looking at someone's face whether they have dyslexia or dyscalculia. For example, if I were to look at some of my children's faces, I wouldn't know if they had dyslexia, but I know that they don't because, they manage to read. But, when we look at students' faces, those who have dyslexia, those who have dyscalculia, we really can't tell if they have these conditions. And that's why it's crucial for us to take note of this issue. because it's a silent condition that no one would know until we see how the students perform in school. So let us now take a look at another neurobiological condition, and that is autism or autism spectrum disorder. Autism exists as a spectrum from being mild to rather serious or high. Autism spectrum disorder. It's now also called in certain countries autism spectrum conditions, where they don't want to refer to the fact that the word disorder may be a bit hard to take and handle. So it's also called autism spectrum conditions, where they have a condition in which they are not able to do certain things the way some other children or individuals would. So many of us may have heard about autism, and we may have heard something about it, or we may have met someone who have had this condition. But other than this, many of us may not know that much more. So autism or ASD or ASC is in fact a complex neurodevelopmental condition with challenges with regard to social interaction, communication. Assalamualaikum. Is this Aiman? Arif, yes. Assalamualaikum. So Arif, thank you very much, Arif, for coming. So yes, social interaction, communication, and also behavioral patterns. The picture of this toddler arranging his cars neatly in a row is one of the manifestations of children with autism. Now this is where I'm making some general statements, but we must remember that autism or autism spectrum disorder does exist as a continuum. So autistic children tend to avoid eye contact, have difficulty reading facial expressions and expressing feelings or needs in words, and understanding other people's feelings, behavior, and emotions, as well as their own. They may also follow the same routines, do the same things over and over, and experience extreme distress or get upset when disrupted. They may struggle to keep their emotions, to manage their emotions, and become overwhelmed by them. And also be prone to meltdowns. It doesn't mean that they have meltdowns all the time, but they can have meltdowns due to sensory processing issues, anxiety, frustration, or communication difficulties. So these are some of the manifestations of autism or ASC or ASD. We have to remember that autism exists as a spectrum, and so we will see different manifestations of it depending on the severity of the conditions. Finally, I would like to briefly touch on ADHD, which is another neurobiological condition where learners with ADHD have difficulties in maintaining focus, organizing tasks, and managing impulses. And this can impact their academic, occupational, and social functioning. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I've just described are some of the manifestations of autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, which often cause learners with these conditions to be misinterpreted and misunderstood. Dyslexic learners are often thought of as being slow or lazy, while autistic learners are sometimes misunderstood as being disruptive when they feel distress or when they have a meltdown, while those with ADHD are sometimes seen as being noisy and disruptive. And all this has caused a considerable number of them to have a negative experience of school. For example, among dyslexic learners who have negative experience in school, and this was the results of the Dyslexia Action Survey conducted in the UK, where the parents reported that 50% of them felt that their child had a negative experience at school because of their dyslexia. More than 50% of them said that there are times when their child does not want to go to school. And 47% of them said that their child had been bullied or picked on. This was also reported by the children of dyslexia, children with dyslexia. They said that they're bullied all the time by friends. One student said, a teacher ripped up my written work in front of the class and put it in the dustbin. Teacher said that I would never amount to anything in life and that I was lazy and a troublemaker. Another student said, the teacher said that I was stupid, made me stand and tell my classmates that I was stupid. So the negative experience in school is also felt by students with autism and ADHD, as reported in numerous studies. One example that I would like to share, I mean, you all know this gentleman, I think he's a famous actor who has won many awards, is an example of Sir Anthony Hopkins, who said that he was a poor learner, which caused him to be ridiculed when he was young, and which led to an inferiority complex. He said he grew up believing that he was stupid. So why is this important? Ladies and gentlemen, why am I even emphasizing it? And why is it important? Firstly, there is a lack of awareness among non-special education teachers of the conditions with regard to dyslexia, autism, and ADHD, as reported in innumerable studies. This is not just one study, but many studies reported this worldwide. Many of them are not aware, many teachers are not aware of the instructional strategies that would be most suited to these learners. So consequently, the students often do not receive the kind of instruction that would help them to succeed. And this significantly impacts what the students learn in school. Therefore, educating teachers on neurodiverse conditions such as autism, dyslexia, and ADHD is essential to creating a supportive learning environment for these and other students. The same is true for Malaysia. Many mainstream teachers are not aware of the strategies that would help neurodivergent learners. This issue is especially crucial given the large classes, sometimes amounting to between 35 to 40 students. In this situation, teachers are more likely to direct the teaching towards all the students and may not be able to provide the kind of differentiated instruction that is geared to help people who may not learn at the same pace. Differentiated instruction that these learners would need. So there's also a lack of awareness among parents of ASD, dyslexia, and ADHD, resulting in a delayed identification of a child's conditions. Sometimes the parents see, something about their children. They may feel something, but they're not quite sure what it is, and if they are not, if they have not ever known about some of the conditions and manifestations of either ADHD, dyslexia, or ASD, they may not know that this is what their children have. And this results in a delayed identification of their child's condition. They also lack awareness of what would help their child to succeed. Now, this is not the fault of parents or the fault of teachers, but it is something that we need as a society to help teachers and parents with. Second reason why it's a very important issue for us to look at these conditions is because it is prevalent. It is estimated, for example, that between 10 to 20% of children have learning disabilities, such as ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. And that dyslexia is the most common, where 20% of children in special education classes are estimated to have this condition. It is important to note that the statistics may vary across countries, but it should be pointed out that they are regarded as conservative estimates because a sizable number of children with learning disabilities have not been identified or formally diagnosed as having this condition. And therefore, there is a very high probability that its prevalence is much higher than what the statistics reveal. So it may be higher than what we actually know or what has actually been reported. The situation is not very different in Malaysia, where about 38.7% of the registered persons with disabilities are those with learning disabilities. However, accurate statistics of children with learning disabilities remain underreported. So this is another, in a sense, problem, if you will, because if we don't know exactly accurate statistics, it's difficult to come up with the right approach. Additionally, students with learning disabilities often do not receive timely nor effective intervention. And there are estimates that report that only 1 in 6 or 6% receive specialized instruction that would help to address their learning issues. These were the results of studies in the United States reported by the National Council for Learning Disabilities in the United States. This is about those in the United States. We don't have very accurate estimates of this particular situation here in Malaysia, but we suspect that it may not be very different. So this is really crucial, especially so in an inclusive system which Malaysia has adopted. It's a good system with very good aims, where children of various abilities are taught in the same mainstream classroom. But this can pose additional challenges of teaching, challenges where teachers would have to tailor their instruction or teaching to meet the needs of all students, including students with special needs. So there is geared towards all students, and it may not have a variety or a difference in instruction for those with special needs. Because doing so would require them to carry out differentiated instruction, where they would have to plan for some adjustments in their teaching so that it would address the needs of these students with special needs, as well as those of the rest of the class. I would also like to add that according to numerous studies, students with learning disabilities have a 31% chance or probability of being bullied, are twice as likely to be suspended, are 3 times more likely to drop out of school, 4.5 times more likely to have mental health issues than children without a learning disability. Students with learning disabilities are also likely to experience increased levels of anxiety and have a lower self-concept, are at greater risk for emotional or psychological problems, and at risk for juvenile delinquency if the situation is prolonged and there is no intervention. The implications: if the conditions remain if the condition remains undiagnosed and unaddressed, these children face a high risk of reading and academic failure, which frequently leads to frustration, psychological and emotional problems, and problems such as absenteeism, suspension, delinquency, and dropping out of school. According to the National Council for Learning Disabilities, many of these students consequently have problems with the law, leading to their being incarcerated or put in jail. The problems that children with learning disabilities have in the childhood will intensify if there is no intervention as they approach adulthood. And there is a likelihood of further grave consequences. Studies have shown that a large percentage of dropouts, delinquents, and the prison population in the United States have some form of learning disability. In fact, this of course does not mean that children or people with learning disabilities end up in prison. No, it doesn't. But it does underscore the fact that if they are ignored, if they do not receive any intervention, and if they continue being ridiculed, sidelined, and mistreated, they may end up in despair. And this is when involvement in crime usually starts. These are the children, the adolescents, and the adults who have fallen through the cracks of our system. And we do not want this to happen to our children and the children of our nation. Given the fact that these or their disabilities are invisible, children with learning disabilities often do not receive the kind of instruction that they need to succeed, limiting the access to quality education and the ability to participate in academic, social, and economic life. So the academic, psychological, emotional, social, and economic repercussions of reading and academic failure are enormous. This is unfortunate because these students are between average and above average in intelligence and can learn if provided with the right support. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, given the gravity of the consequences of not addressing the needs of those with learning disabilities, it is crucial that as a society, this issue is taken as being of top priority, and that schools, institutions, teachers, and parents are made aware of the importance of supporting these children if we are to do justice and meet their educational needs. This is especially so given that Islam has always placed the seeking of knowledge and the responsibility to educate to be of paramount importance. This can be seen in various verses of the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet, may peace be upon him, that have outlined the centrality of education in safeguarding the higher purpose of faith. For example, in Surah 39, verse 9, Allah says, "Are those who have knowledge and those who have no knowledge alike? Only the men of understanding are mindful." And in Surah Fatir, verse 38, Allah says, "From among His servants, it is only those who know that fear Allah. Verily, Allah is most mighty, most forgiving." The importance of seeking knowledge has also been emphasized by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who said, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim, male or female." In addition to our responsibility or obligation to seek knowledge, Islam also has a high regard for teaching and the virtue of teaching. The Prophet was reported to have said that a scholar who works in teaching has a high status in the domain of the heavens. So, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, all of you, inshallah, with the knowledge that you teach and spread, inshallah, we all have a high status in the domain of the heavens. And so our student teachers, our pre-service teachers, what you're doing as teachers is something that is really important. And inshallah, we pray that the act of teaching is something that is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of our deeds, good deeds. In fact, the act of teaching holds such a central position in Islam that the beneficial knowledge that teachers or scholars have taught and disseminated continues to benefit them even after they are no longer in this world, as reported by the Prophet, peace be upon him, in this hadith. When a human being dies, his deeds end because we are no longer there to do good deeds, except for three: ongoing charity, the beneficial knowledge he taught and disseminated, or a righteous child who prays for him. So even after our death, even after we are no longer in this world, inshallah, our good deeds, what we have taught and disseminated, the good things that we have taught and disseminated, inshallah, will help us in the hereafter as well. So what role can we play? Firstly, what can teachers do? To all teachers, those in schools and those in universities, those who are here in this hall or online, and those beyond, I would like to say that we have the power to shape the learning experience of all our students. We do this by understanding by understanding and meeting their educational needs, by recognizing their potential, and by ensuring that they're appreciated and valued in our classrooms. In school, we are the ones who can instill a love of learning in them. Our belief in their abilities will help them to thrive and succeed. One of the things that we can do is, for example, is to be conscious of the fact that in our class, we may have learners with autism, dyslexia, or ADHD. Hence, we should try to notice, if you will, the signs of these conditions. If a student has difficulties in reading, for example, we may need to remember that it may be dyslexia that's causing him these difficulties. And words such as stupid or lazy can seriously damage the child's self-image. In fact, when we see some of these signs, we may suggest to the school that the learner be screened for dyslexia. Second, we must remember to reward effort by providing positive reinforcement, by expressing our appreciation of the efforts, not just the product or the outcome. For this will motivate them to keep on trying. For students with autism or ADHD who may be feeling and acting distressed or may be having a meltdown, we need to consider that this may be due to their conditions, and so that we can be kind but firm and guide them accordingly. Finally, to help address the educational needs of these students in a mainstream classroom, we can work with special education teachers to learn from them the instructional strategies that will be most suited for students with ADHD, ASD, and dyslexia, and how we can differentiate our instruction, that is, make adjustments to our teaching to meet their educational needs as well as those of their peers. These things are, of course, sometimes easier said than done, but teachers, our role is crucial in helping them to succeed. The schools and the Ministry of Education also can play a role. In fact, they have played a role, but given the fact that the degree of lack of awareness is still there, we keep having new teachers all the time who may not be aware. So it's a constant work and challenge, and for the schools and the ministry to work together with the Ministry of Education to address the challenges in the inclusive classroom. I'm putting inclusive classroom first because, in my view, we have moved from a system from where a lot of students learn in the special education classroom to a situation where students of dyslexia, autism, and ADHD learn in the same classroom as their peers. They learn together in the same classroom. Inclusivity and inclusive classrooms are good. A good means to help, and there are many positive aspects to this. It helps students socialize. It helps students to improve in terms of their social interaction and so on. But there are some challenges when it comes to teaching the students to in a class that also has students who are able to go forward very easily. So this is where teachers may have to make adjustments to their teaching, and it's not easy given a class of 40 or a class of 35. And I don't think we will see in the near future that class sizes will drop, because there would be many implications to the system. So we need to be able to tackle these challenges, and this is where the Ministry of Education, the schools, if we could reconsider taking a look at how we can solve these issues in the mainstream inclusive classroom to help the teachers, I think that would go a long way towards helping them. And then we need to work together on the training of teachers. Many teachers have reported that they are not well equipped to teach students of special needs or students with ADHD, dyslexia, or autism. So there is a need to look into that as well. And we also need to have support for mainstream teachers. Mainstream teachers, many of them have reported that they are not trained to do that, don't have the background to teach students with dyslexia, ADHD, and so on. So this is something for us to take a look at and try to overcome. What can universities do? Okay, there are many things that universities can do. For example, by stimulating research, by creating inclusive policies, by providing services and fostering an environment where diversity is celebrated, we can be the engine that drives forward the progress of these students at the tertiary level. In this regard, I would like to applaud, among others, the university's inclusive admission policies that provides well-deserved opportunities to students of various abilities and challenges. And these students that we have admitted have thrived. They have done very well. So I'd like to express appreciation to the university for seeing and acting on the need to provide tertiary education in a way that would help them to thrive. Among the things that I would like to highlight and applaud is the effort of the Disability Services Unit, headed by our professor, Dr. Rosita, Professor Rosita. I think they have made a lot of, they've done a lot to help the students. And they have had the buddy system where students help their other students, they volunteer to help. I've also seen lately, and not too lately, but the DSU has actually put asterisks in the what do you call it? Registry. What do you call it? Attendance. The attendance. Yeah. So they have asterisks. If you don't have any asterisks there, don't worry. Okay. No need for us to do anything. But if you see asterisks, for us as teachers, we it's good to find out Dr. Rosita, Prof. Rosita, or Prof. Rosita's person that helps. I mean, what does this student have, for example, so that when we know that a person has a disability, whether it's a physical disability, hearing impairment, a learning disability, as teachers, we can try and should try to help. As a teacher, I would want to know if my student has any form of difficulty or disability, if you wish to call it that. So, because if we know, then we will try to take the steps to help. And students don't have to feel that this is a stigma. If your name has an asterisk there, it's not a bad thing. All right, it's to help the teacher find a better way or more ways to help you. So, I would like to really appreciate, express appreciation for what the DSU has done. Also, I think the DSU has had many success stories, including in helping our student here, Arif. Thank you for coming here. And these are success stories that we all benefit from. So we have had many success stories, and my thanks to Professor Rosita and the team. We also have, for example, a support group for parents that was started by Dr. Ida here, my colleague from communications. I mean, Dr. Ida, that support group I know has helped many parents because parents need help. Parents need help. They don't know what to do, where to turn to, how to express their feelings, and to whom. So the support group is there to support parents. It used to be called parents, special parents, but now it's called support, right? Okay, so thank you very much also, Dr. Ida, and we need to also congratulate Dr. Ida because her son has successfully graduated from college and now is in IIUM also doing his degree. So we wish him the best. And thank you for your commitment. Sometimes it needs to have been there and felt that to be able to want to do that. So our appreciation to you. Okay, and lastly, of course, there are many things that many people can do, but I've only picked a few. And lastly, but not the least important, the parents. To all the parents here and to all those attending online, and to all those parents who have been supporting their exceptional children all the way. Today is a tribute to you, just as it is a tribute to your children. Parents, your role is the most enduring. You are your child's first advocate, their pillar of strength, and their constant source of support. At home, you foster resilience, confidence, and the ability to learn. When the education system falls short, or when society doesn't quite understand, you are there, giving them the love and support they need to persevere. You are the ones who help your child build a positive self concept, believe in themselves, and pursue their goals with determination and courage. Never underestimate the power of your influence. It is your unwavering belief in them that will inspire them to fulfill their dreams. As a parent, you will have witnessed the trials and tribulations that your child has gone through. For example, you might have had your 7-year-old autistic child come home one day feeling very sad and saying, "Daddy, I have no friends. No one ever eats with me during recess." Or your daughter comes home one day feeling very down because her teacher and friends had called her stupid for not being able to understand a simple little thing. Or for being bullied because your child speaks and acts funny. These are among the times when you will have to be and have been that pillar of strength for your child to depend on. These are the times when you will have to help them overcome the sadness and help them to move forward. These are the times when you will have to understand, you will understand them when no one else seems to. Our children will suffer hard knocks in life, whether they come from tactless comments. There are so many tactless comments that are sometimes said, ridiculing, bullying, or from not having friends because he is perceived as being different from the rest. And of course, this is not easy on parents as well. While being the pillar of strength for their children, parents have also suffered 1,000,001 heartbreaks, as shared by this mother of an autistic child. This mother was also a part of my study. The thing that saddens me the most is when people look at Hassan in a funny or strange way, especially when he acts in a way that they deem strange. From the outside, Hassan looks normal, but each time I will have to explain why he is behaving in a certain way. Life is not easy for people like Hassan, but Allah is great. Today, people are more aware of autism, and Hassan has been fortunate to have good people around him, alhamdulillah. Yes, indeed, like their children who are neurodivergent, parents need help too. This is where we need to create support groups for parents so that they too can be supported and so that they know that they are not alone in their journey. Alhamdulillah, many support groups have been set up by organizations, schools, universities that not only support parents and universities, but also act as advocates for change. So it's the good thing about having support groups is that as a group, we can try to act for change and help to effect change because in numbers we seem to have perhaps have more strength in changing people's minds. So in this context, parents play a vital role as advocates for their children to ensure that the children receive support, accommodation, and understanding they need to thrive in environments that may not be suited to their unique learning styles. Ladies and gentlemen, before I bring this lecture to a close, I would like to highlight verse 13 from Surah Al-Hujurat. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the eyes of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you. The verse reminds us that all of mankind are descendants of Adam and Hawa, and from them arose various nations and tribes for us to know one another and for us to understand each other. There is no superiority of a white over a black, or a black over a white, or a yellow over a brown, or a brown over a yellow. By the way, the use of color here is just to indicate that we come from various nations and tribes, and we do have variations in skin color. This is not a negative or derogatory remark. Okay, so this verse underscores the fact that diversity, whether in race, culture, language, or ability, is a part of Allah's plan. Just as Allah had created diversity in nations and tribes, He also created diversity in the way our brains are wired and how our minds function. Learners with autism, dyslexia, or ADHD are a part of this divine diversity, and their differences are a part of this beautiful spectrum of humanity. Therefore, rather than seeing neurodiverse individuals as deficient or different in a negative sense, another lesson that we can learn from this verse is to understand them and appreciate their unique perspectives and contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, neurodiverse learners such as those with dyslexia, autism, and ADHD need us because they often encounter systems that fail to acknowledge and address their unique ways of thinking and learning. Traditional educational systems and environments, and even societal expectations, are frequently geared towards the typical learners, making it harder for neurodiverse individuals to realize their potential. As educators, parents, and community members, we must recognize that these students often struggle not because of their lack of ability, but because the support and understanding they need are missing. Therefore, our role is critical. We must create spaces where these learners feel valued, understood, and capable of succeeding. This means adopting teaching strategies that cater to their specific learning styles, providing emotional support, and fostering a belief in their abilities. Neurodivergent learners possess remarkable strengths and creativity that, when nurtured, can lead to incredible accomplishments. But we cannot do this alone. Teachers, parents, and communities need to work together to champion the success of these students. They need us to be the advocates, to provide us, and we need to provide them with the support that they need, and to ensure that they are not overlooked. By supporting neurodiverse learners, we are not just helping them reach their full potential, but we are also enriching our schools, our workplaces, and our society as a whole. As I conclude this lecture, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with this call to action to help create greater awareness of their conditions and their needs, to help ensure that the educational needs are met, and to help ensure that they are not only acknowledged, but genuinely understood and valued. Together, we can help them thrive not only as learners, but in becoming vital contributors to our society. Thank you for joining me in this mission, and thank you for your commitment to ensuring that no learner is left behind. May Allah reward us for your efforts, our efforts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Prof. Ratna, for that truly inspiring sharing in our role as educators and parents to support neurodiverse students. We'll now open the floor for questions. If you have any question, please raise your hand. If you're online, please type in the chat boxes, and then we will, inshallah, attend to your question. We have a question with the,
Oh, I don't know.
yeah, yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zuhaira and I'm a kindergarten teacher. My question for Dr. Ratna is, what do you say to parents in denial and pediatricians who know no better, advising the parent that the child is normal? Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Zuhaira. She's affectionately known as
Noi.
Noi. Yes, I was wondering whether I should say that. She's a dear friend of mine from Tengku Kursia College a long time ago, but we still keep in touch. All right. The second part of question, I may not have captured it yet. The second part is, okay, the first part is about parents being in denial. I think this is something that school teachers, school principals will always see and perhaps even expect to see, because it's very difficult for parents to accept, my can't be, my child can't be having this. So it is difficult for parents sometimes to accept the fact that their child has a condition, but in time they will. In time they will, not such a long time, but after some time they realize that perhaps I really need to look into this. So I think about parents being in denial, this is something that I think we all see. Perhaps teachers have seen it. I'm sure teachers have seen it. Principals have seen it. And how do we go about helping them with that, right? Puan Zoira, yeah. So I think in the best way possible, parents or teachers or principals would probably need to maybe explain what some of the things that you see, for example, in a dyslexic child. If I were a parent, I would like to know, I am a parent for beautiful daughters, but if I were a parent of a dyslexic child, I would want to know as soon as possible if my child has a condition that would benefit from something that is diagnosed early. So sometimes telling the parent of some of the conditions of the child, your child is not able. But of course, before trying to convince him, we may need to find out through screening or otherwise that he or she may in fact have that. So we need to put what we say in tentative terms. We may not be able to say that he has dyslexia or he has autism. Your child is not able, Ahmad is not able to do some of these things. I have actually observed him, and he seems to have difficulty in this. Perhaps we might want to look into it. It's not that you're saying we might want to. He said, I think we should, but you're saying perhaps we might want to look into it so that he can be helped sooner. But did I get your question accurately?
Yes, you did. You got the first half correctly.
Okay.
Second part is the mother has gone to see a pediatrician for screening, pre-screening, and the pediatrician says he's perfectly normal.
Okay.
When in the teacher's eyes, there's something
Okay.
different.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So sometimes when the pediatrician has seen the child and has said it's perfectly normal, it's very hard for us to actually argue otherwise, because although our gut feeling is that he or she may have a condition, but when the parents have seen a pediatrician and the pediatrician has said that, well, he's actually normal, he's just a late bloomer, he's not saying or speaking yet, but that can sometimes happen in children who don't have these conditions. So it becomes difficult to sometimes pursue beyond that when parents have actually consulted a pediatrician. But on our own, we can help them in the way that we can. But certainly, if the parents acknowledge that the child may be having a condition, that would help. Definitely. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Aida.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Prof. Ratna, for raising this topic in your lovely speech. I mean, you did it with such grace, and it was really informative. And you were trying to, of course, make us empathize, I suppose, and identify our roles in including children with disabilities. Now, as a mother of a 24-year-old son with autism who is, alhamdulillah, in university right now, we've gone through a lot. Yeah, I think we've gone through a lot, and I've contributed my story to your book.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for
Is there
inviting me.
outside your story?
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
would love to get a copy of it.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank all teachers, all lecturers, and the public for including people with disabilities, persons with disabilities, in all sectors, in all ways, because as a parent, it means a lot to us. Some of us are crying out there, you know what I mean? We are upset, we're grieving about our children here. They're not the same like other kids. In some ways. And the thing is, we face a lot of challenges, and people tell us sometimes, he can't do it. He's just as though worthless, even, right? So as a mother, I'm always at war, I suppose. At war. I'm always, trying to drive this positive perception towards disability inclusion. So I hope the disability inclusion narrative will go on, right? And on, and be kept alive. Assalamualaikum. Congrats, bro. Very good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Aida.
Can I like to make a statement that the word disability has created this stereotyping. You see, the likes of UAE have changed PWD, people with disability, to people with determination. Just like we call people orang kurang upaya, it should have been orang kelainan upaya ataupun orang kuat upaya. Because of this wording, we have created in our society the mentality that these people are not able. Ask us who are not blind, buat bakul macam orang buta to make the weave the baskets. So with that, I would like to advocate to the university to either lobby the powers of the corridor to change this terminology, which in my opinion has created a non-starter conversation. You started with the disabled. You started with all this wording. And that is, in my humble opinion, a simple approach to change the mindset and create a new approach and a new mindset amongst our society, if we are really in the Madani period. Over to you then, Prof.
Thank you so much for your comment, and it's something for us to certainly think about, food for thought, something for us to pursue and keep on pursuing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that last comment. We are short of time, so unfortunately, we can go on, for a few more hours, but because time is not on our side today, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Prof. Right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the next highlight of our program is the much anticipated launch of Prof. Ratna's latest book titled You Are Not Alone, Our Stories of Overcoming the Challenges of Autism, Dyslexia, and ADHD. This work embodies her dedication to advancing our understanding and support of neurodiverse learners. I now have the pleasure of inviting Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, Dato Dr. Osman Bakar, Dr. Azani, and Prof. Dr. Ratna to the front of the hall for the official launch. We will now take a picture of the VIPs with Prof. Ratna's book. Thank you so much. I now respectfully invite Tan Sri Samsudin to present a token of appreciation to Prof. Ratna. Next, we kindly call upon Dr. Azani to present a token of gratitude to the Honorable President of IIUM. And now, Dr. Azani will present a token of gratitude to the Honorable Rector, Prof. Emeritus, Dr. Osman Bakar. Thank you all very much. You may return to your seats. For your information, Prof. Ratna's latest book is available for purchase just outside the Senate Hall. And please note that 50% of all the proceeds will go to NASUM. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a photography session. We kindly ask that everyone remain seated while we capture the memorable moments. If possible, the ones at the back, can you squeeze in together in the middle so that the shot will be nicer, right? The ones on the left and right, can you like kind of squeeze in? Okay, the ones in the center can stay put, but kiri kanan, cuba, yeah. Squeeze yourselves to the middle of the hole. Really? What? Okay, yeah, okay, the ones who, sorry, I told you to remain seated just now, I'm sorry. Our boss here said that, please stand up. The ones that please stand up so that we can see you better. The VIPs remain seated, the guests, please stand up. All right. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pose. Everyone say co-ed. Thank you, everybody. As we wrap up, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Prof. Ratna for her time and invaluable insights. Today's discussion has reinforced the critical importance of supporting every learner's journey, ensuring that nobody is left behind. Thank you all for joining us. With that, I close with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and have a wonderful day ahead. All the VIPs are invited for lunch at the banquet hall. Thank you.